Let's start with Alex Jones, because when we talk about this too shall pass, Alex Jones, I don't know how anybody actually does it. I published a vlog on CommieTube just to keep that algorithm mildly revved up. But I was thinking about this as I was fishing in a pond in Georgia. We find worms yesterday that are borderline ninja worms. These worms are so lively, so energetic that they practically are, well, they're nature's lures, but they like bounce around. Okay, so we find some worms and we decide to use them to go fishing in a small, beautiful Georgia pond. And I'm thinking about Alex Jones while I'm doing this because I know that he loves nature. I know that he believes you need to get into nature to reacclimate spiritually. And I'm sitting there fishing. We're catching one bluegill after another, and it's sort of spawning season or mating season. So the bluegills have like a very puffed up chest. They're just beautiful fish, and we're catching one after the other, and I can't even get the vlog off to do it. But I'm thinking about Alex Jones and how there are, put it to not a poll in the chat, but just to the comments in the chat. Can you name anybody else or top 3 people who have been subjected to the lawfare, the silencing, the deplatforming, the unhumaning? Think of the people that you would say have been the prime targets of this, the number 1, 2, and 3 in no particular order. I'm sitting there thinking, and I say Alex Jones was the original, was the first, was the canary in the coal mine. I cannot think of a top 3 other than Alex Jones, Donald John Trump, and Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson, who I often refer to as the Alex Jones of the UK. I'm curious to see if anybody has any other names that they would put up there. Those are my top 3. Let's see what people say here. Trump, Swedish Fish, which has to be totally unrelated, and other. AJ has been in the crosshairs of the deep state since the deep state got funded, says R. Moore. Rudy Giuliani would be another good one. Steve Bannon would be another good one. But I think it's Trump, Jones, and Tommy Robinson. And just yesterday, Alex Jones is in front of an appellate court in Texas. I don't exactly know how the court system works there. And he's appealing the ruling in the Texas Sandy Hook plaintiff's case. And every time I do a video on this, and I take for granted everybody already knows what I've been talking about for damn near 8 years. This is how Robert Barnes and I met. This is the genesis story, is that I did a breakdown of the Alex Jones deposition. I remember April-ish 2018. From the roof of my house, short hair, wearing sunglasses, total cringe. I do a breakdown of the Alex Jones deposition, and I hear the lawyer in that video say, "I love your work, Mr. Barnes." And I had no idea it was Robert Barnes. And then I only found that out like a year after I met Robert. Alex Jones at that time, as was the highlight clip from that deposition, I was going through a form of psychosis. I was seeing things that weren't really there and connecting conspiracies that weren't really there. And they ran with that clip. And I'm like, surely a 3.5-hour deposition has to come down to more than a 5-second clip of Alex Jones self-diagnosing as having gone through psychosis. Alex Jones never had a trial in the Sandy Hook case. They never had a trial on the merits in either Connecticut or Texas. In the context of that ridiculous lawfare, I presume all of you know this, so bear with me for the summary. They never had a trial on the merits, neither in Connecticut nor in Texas. He was defaulted into a verdict of liability, a finding of liability, because of alleged non-compliance with disclosure obligations, which itself was a manufactured, fabricated lie of a default. They don't say, all right, Alex, you've been such a bad boy, you don't get to defend yourself, but the plaintiffs still have to prove their case because there were issues of statute of limitations. There were issues of actual malice, which needs to be proven even if the defendant doesn't defend. The courts didn't say, all right, Alex, you don't get to defend, but the plaintiffs still need to prove their case. The court came out and said, defaulted into a finding of liability. You are guilty, and the plaintiffs don't even have to prove their case. Injustice. Corrupt injustice happened in Connecticut, and then they dovetailed off that, piggybacked off of that for Texas. Then they have a trial in Texas. The judge, I forget her name, it'll come up in the review, Bella Gare or something. They have a trial for damages only. A trial in which the jury is hand-selected based on their propensity to issue ridiculous rulings on damages. a trial on the quantum, not on the merits, in which Alex Jones is precluded from asserting his innocence, affirming that he apologized, affirming that he corrected and retracted the statements at issue. There was no trial. It was a kangaroo show court of a trial. And then after that trial, the verdict from the jury is $4 million and change on damages, compensatory damages, and $45 million on punitive damages. A ruling which the judge upheld because it defied, I say not because, but she upheld it. The reason for which it was contested was that it defied the statutory cap on punitive damages, which was capped at $750,000 a claim, give or take. So this corrupt judge has a corrupt show trial in which they hand select a jury to come down with the ruling on a quantum because they've already defaulted him into liability. And then Alex Jones appeals the quantum of the punitive. The judge upholds it initially. And then yesterday, there's an argument in front of a appellate level judge court in Texas that is amenable to the arguments. But I need to highlight and refresh everyone's memory. And by the way, if you hear noise, it's because there's one heck of a storm right now in Georgia. I don't know if you can hear the rain. It almost sounds like hail. I need to refresh everybody's memory as to how outrageous and outlandish that so-called trial was. Let me play you just a couple of highlight clips. I have to go to law and crime. Listen to this one, where you can see the trial was such a show trial. There were documentary crewmen in the courtroom making a documentary of this trial while it was going on so they could manufacture a reality in which people live with the Mandela effect of thinking Alex Jones had a trial on the merits, which he never did, period. Anybody who says that has a false memory, and the propaganda machine worked on them. Listen to this. And now let's take a brief pause from this vlog for a word from our sponsor, the Chicago Steak Company. Everybody who's been around this channel long enough knows that the way to my heart is through my stomach with a wonderful piece of beautiful sizzling steak, and that's where the Chicago Steak Company enters the picture. People, they have handcrafted, hand-selected, expertly aged, beautiful steaks delivered right to your front door. Go to their website, see what they have to offer. There you see my beautiful family at one of our wonderful steak dinners. They are vacuum sealed, delivered right to your front door. You can pick up the beautiful steaks, wonderfully aged meat. The burgers are delicious. They will make the perfect barbecue for the summer, 4th of July, whatever the occasion is. Nothing beats a family occasion with Chicago steaks. And right now, the Chicago Steak Company has an amazing, unbeatable offer exclusively for my viewers. Head over to mychicagosteak.com/Viva to receive 8 8-ounce gourmet steak burgers plus free shipping on any order over $149. That is a $189 value, absolutely free. This means tender, juicy steaks, deliciously seasoned with the best flavor Chicago Steak Company's premium cuts, from their beautifully marbled ribeyes to perfectly aged New York strips. They are exactly what everyone needs. Chicago Steak Company premium hand-cut, aged to perfection steaks, 100% satisfaction guarantee ensures quality you can trust with every order. Each steak flash frozen, vacuum sealed, delivered right to your front door. mychicagosteak.com/Viva for that unbeatable offer. My Chicago Steak, thank you for making delicious steaks. Thank you for sponsoring this video. And now back to the vlog.
You may not say to this jury that you complied with discovery.
Of course not.
That is not true. You may not say it again. You may not tell this jury that you are bankrupt. That is also not true. You may have filed for bankruptcy. I don't know that, but I've heard that. That doesn't make a person or a company bankrupt. You're already under oath to tell the truth. You've already violated that oath twice.
You're already under oath to tell the truth, and this judge is telling him what he can and cannot say while under oath to tell the truth. This is a judge. This woman should be impeached. I don't know what the rules are or the process for impeachment of Texas judges. Impeach, disbarred, and jailed if there were any world of justice.
Today, in just those two examples, it seems absurd to instruct you again that you must tell the truth while you testify. Yet here I am. You must tell the truth while you testify. This is not your show. You need to slow down and not take what you see as opportunities to
think about it.
further the message you're wanting to further.
She thinks she's like going to win an Oscar for this. She knows that camera that I highlighted up in the upper right side is on her face. This is her moment. This is her soliloquy. This is her moment in the non-show trial to give this speech to a man who she's gagged, to tell him what he can and cannot say, while asserting that what he does say needs to be the truth, so as to ratify her compulsion to make him lie.
And instead, only answer the specific and exact question you have been asked. No asides. The comments about discovery, the comments about the larynx or whatever it was, the comments about bankruptcy, none of those were responsive to questions. They were just you abusing my tolerance and making asides to the jury improperly, and in at least 2 cases, untruthfully. Do you understand what I have said? Yes or no? Do you understand what I have said?
Yes.
If her name is not Karen, she should change it to Karen.
I believe what I said was true. So
Yes, you believe everything you say is true, but it isn't. Your beliefs do not make something true. That is what we're doing here.
I can't watch.
Just because you claim to think something is true does not make it true.
Do you guys remember this? Do you remember that cow? There are no words for that judge sitting up there berating Alex, compelling him to say what she wants him to say for the cameras so that it's on camera. I believe that what I said was true. It doesn't matter if you believe what you said was true. It isn't. Oh, I'm sorry. You mean in defamation, sincere belief in the statement is not relevant? Oh, but that's right, because there was nothing on the merits. He was already found liable on the merits. That was a judge, not an activist, not a prosecutor, not the plaintiff's attorney, the judge, right in front of the cameras, giving them what they want to see. Let's see, I got another great one here. Look at this. This is when she's berating him on the stand. Can you imagine the patience of a saint Alex Jones has to be sacrificed like this for the world, to be made an example of? This is what happens when the deep state apparatus decides they need to silence you and shut you down.
So if anyone, either of you need
hold on,
any
which one
help
was
with
this?
any witness not answering the questions that you're asked, ask me to do it. That's my job. I like to do my job. I'm not bad at my job. I know you know what I'm going to say, Mr. Jones. Over here.
Oh, hold on a second. Now I'm confused as to which judge. I'm getting confused between the 2 judges.
just yes or no.
Yeah, or I don't.
Okay.
Okay, just answer, sir.
Barbara Bellis. It was Garrett
I'm sorry.
Bellis was.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
This is the Connecticut case. Hold on a second. Let me just see who Barbara Bellis is. I want to make sure I remember. Barbara Bellis, judge. Is it Connecticut? Connecticut. Barbara Bellis. Yeah, Connecticut. Never mind. So that one was Connecticut. The other one was the judge I was thinking of. Scrap it. I was pulling together some highlights. The judge, the first one we saw was Judge Guerra, whatever. Bella something Guerra out of Texas. A hacktivist. A judicial hacktivist. That was the judge that Alex had his trial in front of, who went ahead and ratified $45 million punitive damage award by the jury, who they hand selected so that they could get that. And now, how does the propagandist MSM summarize what's going on in terms of the appellate level review of this? Listen to this. This is Bloomberg. And we talk about confession through projection, not because it's a cliche, but because it's an iron law of woke projection. Is that James Lindsay who said that? Are we still quoting James Lindsay? That's such a, what's the word? A woke right thing to do, to still quote James Lindsay. Read the headline, read the title of this article coming from Bloomberg News, so you know it's got to be good. Alex Jones' bid to cut $50 million Sandy Hook verdict finds receptive judge. Also, not to be confused, it was the Connecticut case that had the $1.2 billion in damages with the multiple plaintiffs, the FBI agent getting a $90 million verdict. The Texas case was $4.5 million compensatory damages and $45 million punitive damages. Receptive judge. Keep that word in your mind. Don't forget the word receptive judge, and we're going to read the rest of this article accordingly. Conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. So ad hominem, persuasion, setting the tone right there. Alex Jones, who questioned the authenticity of the school shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School, received a favorable response from a Texas appeals court Wednesday in his effort to reduce a $50 million verdict for defamation. It's amazing. They still say it. Verdict for defamation. There was never a trial, but set that aside. During oral arguments in Austin, justices on the Third Court of Appeals suggested a jury should have been asked specifically to decide whether to award Sandy Hook parents more than $1.5 million statutory cap on damages. Instead, the trial judge allowed the parents' lawyer to add a cap-busting claim months after trial, which Justice Kelly indicated came too late, which Justice Shari Kelly indicated came too late. Quote, how would the trial have been different if the cap buster had been amended? End quote. Before trial, Kelly asked Jones' lawyer, Ben Brooks, of Brooks Law PLLC. In response, Brooks, who didn't represent Jones at trial, said there's no way of telling how it might have impacted the legal strategy. How about the propensity of the jury? The parents, Neil Hilson and Scarlett Lewis, showed no evidence that harassment they endured from Jones flaming the conspiracy theory impaired them to the point that they'd been entitled to damages above the cap, Chief Justice Darlene Byrne said. Byrne added that Jones could have decided to give the parents more discovery records. Byrne added that Jones could have decided to give the parents more discovery records if he had known ahead of trial that he'd be exposed to larger damages. As it was, the trial court judge found Jones didn't comply with discovery orders and issued a default judgment, a so-called death penalty sanction. First of all, Jones complied with discovery. So just get that out there. He complied with discovery. And to the extent that anything might have been deficient in that compliance, immaterial. He was being requested to comply with discovery in ways that he could no longer comply with discovery, which was providing lists of videos that were on Google, YouTube, that he no longer had access to because he was deplatformed. He complied with discovery, and any judge who says otherwise is a political hacktivist. Jones, who sat in the front row, stayed silent 40 minutes. Okay, fine. Outside the court, the parents' lawyer, Mark Bankston, mocked Jones, enthusiastically greeting him. Hey, man! Jones didn't respond. In court, Bankston and Farah Ball LLP called the court's decision pretty worthless because Heslin and Lewis will get a share of the Connecticut judgment, which the state Supreme Court recently upheld, and Jones won't have any money for the Texas verdict. Before arguments began, Byrne informed the lawyers that the court wouldn't be ruling on a motion for sanctions that Bankston filed on Monday. Pursuing sanctions on appeal is, quote, unique and concerning for me, Byrne told Bankston. Not so, he replied, noting that in 2020, the same court sanctioned Jones in this case. Oh, that's great. They're relying on the Jones precedent to justify more Jones sanctions. On the cap buster question, Bankston cautioned the court against setting a precedent that would alleviate Jones of the trial court verdict on the grounds that he didn't produce records that could have helped his defense. That sends a message that, quote, compliance with rules is conditional, end quote, on the size of the verdict, he said. The court seemed less likely to overrule the trial court's order, handing the families a default win based on Jones disobeying discovery orders. It's madness. Brooks, Jones' lawyer, said that the trial court can issue stern disciplinary measures, but that the First Amendment protects him from a default judgment. Quote, you're telling me the trial court's hands are tied even staring down a defendant, thumbing their nose at them, end quote, Byrne asked. It's a pure legal fiction that Jones defaulted to that meaningful of an extent that you'd get a verdict by default. It's a pure legal fiction. But the fact that he gets a responsive or receptive judge, what does that tell you? It tells you exactly what they did in the initial trial. They got a receptive judge, Judge Bella, whatever the hell her name was. They got a receptive jury to come down with an outlandish award for damages. I was there. I saw the questions they were asking the jury, and it was clear they were hand-selecting that jury to make sure they got a responsive jury that would be amenable to issuing outlandish, outrageous verdicts. And now that he gets the slightest bit of an indication of potential reprieve, he's going to get away with it. That's the Alex Jones story, people.